you guys are like me, you have fall on the brain because it's been so hot and you are probably so sick of your garden that all you do is daydream about fall and cooler temperatures right now. And I am doing the same thing. So today I'm going to list 5 pre-fall prep garden chores that I think we should be doing right now to get ready for fall. But first, Stuart thinks he's so clever. So I was carrying both of these things, my water because I always try to hydrate, and also because I wanted to show you this. My first tip is going to be about taking cuttings of coleus to bring inside, and I started to drink out of this instead out of this, and Stuart just chuckled and said I was so garden crazed now I am drinking my own plants. So Stuart, do you think you were really funny on that one? Okay, so as an entree to that, and here's, I guess, my question for the day for you guys. These are 5 things I'm doing right now in my garden, in your garden, and make sure to tell me your garden zone. What things would you add to the list? We want everyone to be able to, I think, learn from your expertise in your gardens. So right now my window box is really overgrown, and in other areas of the garden I've got lots of sun coleus that still looks, I mean, from the street this still looks really pretty even though it's overgrown. But I'm doing some pre-fall tending right now for 2 different reasons. One, I want to make some cuttings so that I can spread these cuttings around after they root into other parts of the garden where I want to have this kind of color. And then also because these are getting kind of leggy right now, and I want them to grow in a more, in a bushier way, in a more compact way in preparation for fall. So for those of you that are new gardeners, this is a great tip for new gardeners. I think one of the most satisfying things, it never gets old, is to take cuttings of plants and stick them in water. These coleus cuttings root very easily in water, and what they will do, let me set this down, is they will start putting out at where a leaf node is. So there's a leaf node here, and there's a leaf node up here. At the point of the leaf node, generally, they will start putting out roots. And when they are rooted like this, they're ready for planting. It takes absolutely no time at all. Sometimes you'll find that along the stem it develops some white nubby dots, and that's where the roots are going to come out. And you really should, I didn't do it here, but you really should remove the lower leaves so that they are not below the water line and make your water start to get a little bit rancid. So I have already done these. I started these a while ago, 2 different kinds of coleus. You can do it with other plants, and if you want to know about those other plants, I would just Google it and I would say, can I root such and such just in water? And that would be the best way to kind of research that. So right now I've got some lantana, which I have never found will root in water, but it's still looking pretty good. I may cut it back a little bit, but I kind of like its rampant growth right now. I had some celosia in here that's not really doing anything, so I will probably pull it out, but I am going to cut back. Stuart, if you want to show this. So I'm going to cut back right here, and then I'm going to remove these lower leaves, and then I'm going to immerse this in water. Now it will look kind of stubby there. Excuse me. Yesterday I asked if you sneeze in the sun. Obviously I am one of those that does. So I'm cutting this back and I am rooting these cuttings then. And I'm going to do this, and for this kind of thing, by the way, you guys, this is just debris, garden debris that's not buggy. It will break down over time, and if it's not buggy and it won't take a lot of time to break down, I just throw it into the flower bed. So I'm going to continue with this hole, and I'm going to cut it back pretty dramatically. So out of this one, you see I can get multiple cuttings. And then what you can also do, very obviously, is you could save these over the winter, grow it as a house plant if you have a really bright spot, and then you can put it out next year. It's a great money saver. It's a great money-wise tip, is just make cuttings of coleus. And by the way, if you have gardening friends who are growing a different variety than you are growing, just ask them for some cuttings off of theirs. I'm sure they will be happy to share, because I will have more than enough of these cuttings to share. And if Stuart quits making fun of me, maybe I will share some with him. So I am going to continue this all the way through the window box and other areas of my garden. So that's one thing to do right now. Number one, take cuttings of things that you want to root in water to save for next year or for later in the season. Well, Stuart is at it again. Yesterday in the video we did, I discovered when I was working in the front flower beds an empty beer can that it had either blown in there or someone had tossed it in there. I'm not sure. So Stuart now is accusing me of sleep drinking cheap beer in the middle of the night when I'm walking in my sleep. So with that as an entree into my number 2 garden chore to do right now is order your tulip bulbs. If you have not already done it, you definitely want to get on the stick and order them right now. Not just your tulip bulbs, but also your daffodils, alliums, anything that you want to make sure that you get the variety that you want. So here you go. Here is the Color Blends catalog. You can order the catalog, or you can also just order them online. There's a card up above. Just click on that link and it will send you to colorblends.com, where you can order any of the tulip bulbs that you so desire. And FYI, probably my very favorite blend in here is probably the French Rose blend. All of their blends are designed to bloom over a long period of time, early, mid, and late. So they really are very, very carefully calibrated and I think choreographed to give you the most beautiful show. So if you have not already done it, that's what you need to do next. Number 2 is order your bulbs from Color Blends. Well, you may have noticed that I've been having trouble keeping up and answering all of your questions that are in the comment section below. And by the way, I love it when you guys share what's happening in your garden and also ask me questions and give me comments. So Stuart and I are going to try something a little bit different on Sunday around 11 Central Standard Time, I believe. We're trying to firm that up right now, but we're going to do a YouTube Live. And what I hope to do is share lots of the communications you guys have sent to me. You guys have sent me gifts. You have asked all sorts of questions. My most recent one was from Dolores, and she sent me the loveliest note and asked if I would share some of my seeds with her. Dolores, I will give you some of those feverfew seeds once I have time to sit down at my desk. So I'm going to share some of those things with you guys and also give you an opportunity maybe to answer some questions for me, weather permitting. There's a lot of things up in the air right now, but we're going to try to do that at 11 o'clock on Sunday, so put that on your calendar, set a reminder in your phone. Okay, my number 3 thing that you want to do right now as part of your pre-fall planning. I have already kind of unofficially declared August topiary month, at least myrtle topiary month, and so I'm really tending them a lot. I'm clipping them a lot, but I'm also feeding them a lot, unlike some other things in my garden that I don't want to put on really rampant growth right before fall. But my topiaries, especially my myrtles, I definitely are, and especially those that still have some gaps in them that I want to fill out before the holidays, before fall, so that I can bring them in and I can use them around the holidays. So what I'm doing is feeding them pretty frequently and pretty heavily with a liquid fertilizer. Now right now I'm using both the fish emulsion and the Espoma Grow liquid water dissolving fertilizers. They come in liquid form. You can just dump them into your container and I shake them up, but it doesn't really matter. you know, you don't have to do lots of detailed measuring. I think this is just about a dead puppy here. I've used it so much, but I am really religiously watering them with an organic liquid fertilizer almost every day. Now I'm doing that with my topiaries. You may not be a topiary kind of person, but I bet you have some containers of flowers and things like geraniums and such that you hope will put on a beautiful second flush once it cools down in the fall. And for those, I use right now, I've got some dahlias that are in bud form and they just won't go ahead and bloom. And for that I use this Espoma Bloom. I will put a link below, or Stuart, maybe we can put a card above, one of the two, so you guys can get some of this. Again, what I love about this is I don't have to have my glasses so that I can read exactly what the proportions are, the measurements are when I water them and mix it with water in my watering can. I can just kind of eyeball it, pour it in there, and it's very, very easy care and user friendly. So that would be my number three thing to do right now, is start thinking about when you want to start fertilizing your plants. If it is still really hot there, we've actually had a little bit of a cool front come through here. By cool front, I mean it's going to be a high of around 90 instead of 100. But I think since it's below 95, that some of my geraniums and things, my begonias, they will start putting out flowers again if I give them a little nudge with some of this plant food. So that would be my number 3 tip, is start fertilizing selectively some of your plants now. Okay, Stuart is once again making fun of me because usually I don't have many garden bloopers, but I just had 2 in a row, and he said he is so saving those so that he can do a blooper reel for you guys. Okay, I digress. Number 4 on my pre-fall garden chore list is, I guess, number 1, know when your first frost date is, because it will inform when you do some of these garden chores, like this next one that I'm getting ready to do, which is pruning some of my evergreens. So depending on whether or not you live in the south where it's still very, very hot, or you live in the north where your frost date is going to come a lot sooner, plan your pruning accordingly. And if you don't know what your first frost date is, you can just Google it and your local horticultural extension center will tell you. Now in yesterday's video, and I'll put a card above so you can refer to it, I talked about having 2 different kinds of hedge shear pruners. I've got my Barnells, which are absolutely my prized and favorite ones that I reserve very much for my boxwood because of their pointy tip and their lightweight. I have a second pair that I use on things like my junipers that might get kind of gummed up with a kind of a residue on them. They are not as prized, they're not as hard to find, and they are equally as tough, and they do a fine job. So I save my Sunday shears for my boxwood, and these are just my everyday shears for other types of things in my garden. So Stuart was also giving me grief because I hadn't pruned this topiary yet. Now this topiary, by the way, you guys, it grew all by itself. I did not plant this, I did not buy it. It started out from a little tiny start. In fact, Stuart, if you look down at the base, you can see in the back what looks to be like a little tiny maple tree that's gone to seed there. That's how big it was when this standard first was planted by a bird or something and grew into a sizable, beautiful specimen. And it also started out, let me show you here. And this is another garden chore you might want to put on your list. If you have any volunteer free topiaries in your garden right now that you want to pot up for the holidays, now is the time to do that. So this one started out like this, only smaller. And if you start thinking about what shape you want them to adapt as they grow into a big boy, early on, you can then prune it accordingly. So for example, this one, I can see that it has potential to be a Christmas tree shape or a double ball topiary. I can do it either way, but I'm also, I did another video on that. Maybe if we try, Stuart, maybe we can put up a link to that one, of how I just dug these up out of my garden, and I will show you what they're doing right now and what a darling little Christmas tree tableau this is going to be for the holidays. But once again, I'm getting off topic for the garden chore to be addressing right now, and that is I am just pruning my evergreens. Now, the reason that I say this is a job to be done now is twofold. One, if you live up north, you may want your last pruning of some of your, fussier evergreens like your boxwood or things of that nature. You may want to do your last prune right about now so that they have a chance for the new growth to harden off before the cold weather sets in. Now, for us here in the south, it might still be a little bit premature because the temperatures are still very, very hot. We probably or may not be finished with 100-degree temperatures. So while I'm pruning this juniper that's in some shade, I am going to probably hold off a bit on pruning my boxwood because I don't want its new growth to not be tempered to the heat, because that can also be a problem. It flushes out with new growth that then kind of can sunburn or scorch in the intense sun and the high temperatures. But this right now is a no-brainer. It's really bothering me. And there is nothing like pruning a topiary like this to give you immediate gratification. Now, you can see how these long-handled pruners make quick work of doing this. If I were using just some regular pruners, it would take considerably longer. But this one, this way, I can get this done very, very quickly. A lot of times I will just do the first round with these long-handled shears, and then I'll come back and maybe do a little bit of fine-tuning. So I am going to finish this up, and that is your number 4 tip, your garden chore to do for pre-fall planning. Well, here is a don't that's going to lead to my final do in your garden chore list for pre-fall planning. And that is, we are so craving cooler temperatures and fall-like conditions right now so we can get back outside and really enjoy our gardens. It's so tempting right now when you go to your nursery or garden center. When I was at Lowe's the other day looking for my favorite mulch, I saw that they already had out their mums. They had all of these fall plantings out, but in particular mums. Well, if you just want to throw away money, then buy your mums and put them out now because you can put them out and the flowers will not last, and by the time it really turns to fall with that beautiful golden light and the cool air, they will be toast and you will have to replenish them. So one thing that I really try to do is to just repress that desire to go ahead and buy fall plants that I know will probably expire very rapidly in our continuing heat and strong sun. So if you are tempted to buy a mum or some other kind of fall plant, kales or pansies or anything like that, then just don't scratch that itch, but think about other things. If you just, that money in your pocket is just burning a hole and you've got to buy something, then buy something that will contribute to the fall and outdoor living. So in that respect, buy lanterns now. These are some of my QVC lanterns. Stuart, let's put a card above so that you can find them. But any kind of lanterns or anything that contributes to outdoor living. These obviously will have candles in them. These are battery operated candles. I'll put these in later. Right now I've just got them in storage as inventory for when it does cool off, because they have a wax veneer and these would literally melt in the southern exposure and in the southern sun. So I don't know if you can show, I've got another one over here, and I've got several of them located around the garden to create garden magic, because lighting is so crucial to garden magic. But right now, I am not going to really be using these things. I'm not going to have them out because they will just melt, but I am starting to plan for fall and staging where I want the lanterns to be and buying them if I don't already have them for a specific location. String lights I would put in the same category. I'll put a link to my favorite string lights. Think about garden magic right now and how you can stage outdoor living in your own homes and gardens. Think garden throws. You might want to get some outdoor planters specifically for fall, those kinds of things, but don't jump the gun and buy plants that will just end up in your compost pile prematurely. You really don't want to do that. So there are your 5 things on your garden chore list to do pre-fall and in late summer. But wait, I have a bonus tip for you. One more thing you might want to do right now. Don't execute, but do some pre-fall planning. And that is that I want to relocate this really sad mound of tall phlox. I want to relocate it into the back in the flower bed across from the potager. So I've identified it now. Now, if you guys are like me, my memory isn't what it used to be, and I forget that there are certain things that I thought of to do that were brilliant ideas, but then I don't remember them. So right now I'm getting one of these utility flags and I'm putting it right here so that when weather permits, it's way too hot to do this now, but when weather permits, this is one thing that I know I want to transplant to another location. I've kind of cleaned out this area. I pruned up my weigela, and now I know that this is one plant that would be happier in a different location. So mark the spot of anything that you want to remove or transplant or relocate to another area in your garden, because fall is the time for planting. So if you have hung on this long, here is your fashion ensemble du jour. My hat is from Costa Rica. It's one of my husband's hats, actually, that I wear. I like it because it's lightweight and vinyl. I noticed that I've been wearing more baseball caps lately. I'm not sure why, but I have been. My t-shirt is from Duluth Trading. My earrings, I don't remember where they're from. I have a whole assortment, a whole wardrobe of just hoop earrings. I've had these for years. My shorts are J. Crew that I have had for years, and these are those foot form sandals that I always rave about that I get off of Amazon. As always, all links are below in the description box. If you want to know how to get to the description box, right underneath the video on the right hand side is a little icon. What's the icon, Stuart? A little arrow or something. Press on that and it will expand the description, where I give a little bit more information and all of the products that I talk about, in addition to links for QVC and my books and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good resource. And lastly, make sure that your hose and sprayer always coordinates with your t-shirt. So thanks, guys. Go tell me what your fashion ensemble du jour is.